Hi, I'm Carolina, your podcast host and expert womb healer. Over the past 5 years, I've served over 500 women to remove physical blockages in their bodies. We achieve this with Reiki. I believe healing doesn't have to be done alone, nor should it be. You will hear stories of healing, methods to heal with, and guest speakers covering taboo topics you won't hear anywhere else. Let's continue this journey of womb healing together. You're listening to the Carolina Sotomayor podcast. This is episode 59, and today I am going to share some things that I've never talked about. I learned so many big lessons when I was trying to conceive, and one of them was definitely contributing to why I wasn't conceiving as easily as I thought I would. So that's coming up next. But before we do, I want to thank our listener. This is a very unique username. It is Nun0515, and she left a great review on our Apple Podcasts. Love these podcasts, going to play all day. So many things to learn and need to know. Follow. Thank you so much for leaving us a review out of your busy day. And it means so much to me and my team to have your support. And remember, thank you for listening. And when you have time, please leave us a 5-star review to get featured. Maybe you'll be next week's featured listener. Can't wait. If you are leaving a review, maybe we'll pick you. So let's dive in. Can trauma affect fertility? It most certainly can. So the answer to this is yes. So what nobody tells you when you're trying to conceive is that it can be hard. The actual journey of conceiving can be traumatic. And they also don't tell you that your energy, your emotions, your mindset, and your unhealed trauma are all going to be huge factors. So how can it actually affect your fertility? Well, your trauma matters, especially if it's not addressed. And it also matters how you conceive. So trauma can influence you in your life and affect you how you think, how you behave, how you make decisions, how you feel. And it also can affect your health, your mental health, emotional health, your physical body. So it's so important to understand what trauma is, and that can look different for every person. So something that somebody may consider that was just an unfortunate circumstances, or they may not even see it as a trauma. They might just say, oh, that was a painful breakup. That was a traumatic experience. Maybe like that person was abusive, or they may only see a trauma as maybe like a car accident or a divorce, not that maybe birth and complicated birth may not be a trauma to them. So how you see trauma and what is and is not is important too. And that varies from person to person. So for me, I see anything that is painful or has caused me distress as a potential trauma that needs to be addressed, not just big or small. So if something has hurt you, it's time to heal it. It's either time to forgive them or to move to a place of neutrality. And you'll hear me say that over and over again. Maybe it's not about forgiveness. Maybe it's about acceptance of what happened, what went wrong, and how can we move to a peaceful place so that we're not triggered by that event or that memory of it. So for me, trauma was riddled in my life, how my mom and dad parented me, how we were raised, choices I made, events that happened to me, relationships I chose to be in, partners I chose to have. Life happens, and so does trauma. So I've had car accidents, I've had surgeries, I've had a lot of death in my life. So traumas range, but what I do know is that unaddressed traumas, they will show up when you're most vulnerable. And those seasons of life, especially for a person that is trying to conceive, the unaddressed traumas will come up during your fertility, your pregnancy, your birth, and your postpartum. And what that looks like is, for me, and what happened was I had an abortion in my 20s. I own that story and I own my choices. And that is a very polarizing thing for many people. But it's my story. And I share it to make other women know that they're not alone and that you can conceive after having an abortion. So trauma is understanding in my postpartum that when I was looking at my healthy boy, I felt guilty. I felt undeserving. So I had unprocessed emotion from that traumatic event and the decisions I made from around that. So I had to process that. So traumas can come in layers. And because I was so physically mangled after my birth with my son in the C-section, my emotions and hormones were really raw. So that left me very vulnerable. So what consequently has led me to leave this one principle: the more we can heal up front, before we conceive, before we get pregnant, before we give birth, before we're in our postpartum, the easier those seasons will be. If we can heal as much of the big triggers that are specific to a woman who wants to become pregnant, the easier that conceiving process will be. Because in your body, you have a finite amount of space that you can hold on to energy. And if it is holding on to stories and pain and stories of pain, events that traumatized you, that's lowering your vibration. It's also tightening your muscles and making you more stressed and fueling that high level of cortisol. So what we want to do is we want to use Reiki to release those stories, to release that pain that's stuck, that's not moving, maybe in whatever traditional way of treatment that you're doing. Or maybe we do Reiki in addition to talk therapy, whatever is working for you. And in my case, that's exactly what happened. I was doing talk therapy and I was doing Reiki, and the energy moved so much faster. It allowed me to process things and then release it physically. So trauma can be released. You don't have to live in a traumatized space where you are reliving events and stories and pain all over again. Because when you remember it and you talk about it, that physical memory in your tissues is coming up all again, like as if it's just happening again. With Reiki, we're releasing it from your aura all the way down to a cellular level. We're healing on, it penetrates all layers of your being so that you can heal holistically as quick. It's a very strategic way of healing, is the way that I think of Reiki. So trauma can affect your fertility. It can shut down your entire sacral plexus chakra, which is your reproductive system. And it's also where your emotional center is in your body. So that chakra controls creativity, emotions, emotional safety, pleasure, worthiness, familiar relationships, all of that. So if your trauma is influencing how you connect to other people, how you feel emotion, or if you feel emotion at all, that can greatly affect how you conceive, or if you conceive, or if you have infertility or fertility issues at all. So the more that you can release and the more that you can heal up front, the less complicated those other seasons of life will be. And again, it all depends on what you see and view as a trauma. So maybe you don't view something as a trauma, but maybe you have a deep-rooted issue. I interviewed a lady recently who applied for the Next Level Fertility Program, and she had been cheated on by her first boyfriend. So she decided that she was going to date a person for X numbers of years before she would even consider ever getting married to them. And it was going to be like a decade or longer. And that deeply influenced how she was going to show up and how much of herself she gave to the next partner. So that unhealed trauma from the first time that she got cheated on deeply influenced the rest of her romantic relationship for the next decade. So that's really important to look to see of like how you're making decisions, where are you making decisions from, what's fueling that decision making, or even reactions, because it might be coming from a traumatic place. And if that's the case, we need to look at it, because you deserve to live a life full of joy and life and not necessarily of pain. Life's still going to happen, but it's a matter of having a relationship with healing so that you can move through the event that hurts and release it as soon as possible. So I'm going to encourage you to take a look at how maybe some traumas are showing up in your life. It might be more obvious than you think. And if you have questions about it, let's chat over on Instagram. You can find me at the Carolina Sotomayor. I love hearing from listeners and hearing what episodes resonated with them and what they want more of, or what conversations they're having because of the podcast. So coming up next week, we're going to be talking about, what does your spirit baby want you to know? I'm going to show you why you'll never need another fertility psychic again, instead on how to connect with your spirit baby and get the answers that you're dying to know for your fertility journey, for your pregnancy journey, and even for your birth, and how those spirit babies want to be brought into the world. So go ahead and share this show with your friends and let them know what's coming up next week, and invite them to tune in with you and learn how Reiki can help you conceive. Until then, my friends, go ahead and know that you're so loved by me, and I'll see you back here next time. It was an honor to connect and serve you this week. If you are a spiritually curious person wanting to conceive and heal blockages in your fertility, click the link in the episode description to learn more about the Fertility Foundation Collective. Until next time, my friend, know you are loved.